Hi guys, welcome to another IndyCar on Tuesday the 25th of June. Now you're probably wondering why I'm appearing on both this channel and another one. The reason is I'm trying to confuse my obviously British spooks, the ones who follow me around and trying to interfere with programs by transmitting different programs on different channels at different times of the day. So far I've had a wonderful few days of complete anonymity and being able to broadcast whenever I like from my existing personal Facebook page. So I thought for those of you who normally follow me on here, I would bring you up to date with how things are going from the IndyCar viewpoint and what the latest news is, and my spin on it, if you like, my analysis of what's going on at the moment. Well, first of all, I think probably a few of you have already noticed that Gordon Brown has been wheeled out of his crypt and that the jump leads attached to his nipples to get him restarted for another go at protecting his precious union, which he now feels is in more danger than even in 2014 when we were having a vote about leaving the union. Now he feels that it's in even more pressing danger than it was before. So we can tell that the British state is in a tiz over us, because they never usually wheel out Paul Brown unless there is a real threat to the alleged precious union. But what Brown is actually saying is the usual nonsense. I mean, he's not actually directing his criticisms at the real enemy, who are the Tories here. He's basically trying to say that the Tories are handing the Scottish National Party some kind of open goal to shoot at. Well, maybe that's true, but it's not the SNP's fault, that is it. This is the fault of the Tory party. The very Tory party that Gordon Brown's party assisted so ably in 2014 when they did the dirty work for the Conservative Party during the 2014 referendum. Anyway, Gordon Brown, well, I'm certain be stuffed back in his coffin and wheeled back into the crypt shortly when it's realised he's not really having any effect on anybody, and we all just think of him as a colossal joke. But we've also been hearing, well, I don't know what you can say about the interviews with Boris Johnson. I mean, car crash interviews doesn't do it justice. Boris Johnson as an interviewee, as a subject for interviewing, is basically a stammerer. I mean, what he lacks in information, he just makes up by repeating the word I a lot, and coming out with virtually nothing, you know. And his explanation of how he was going to deal with the Brexit crisis was basically taking the good stuff that's in there and throwing away the bad stuff, and load of waffle. Didn't make any sense whatsoever. And this is the man who the Conservative Party thinks is so wonderful and is going to be a wonderful leader for the United Kingdom. The man is an idiot. He's a lazy idiot. He can't even be bothered to campaign properly. He hides from the media because he's so useless in front of it. And because he's such a liability, his own handlers won't let him loose in the studio on a live set in case he says something even more ridiculous, offensive or stupid than he normally says. And this is the man that we want representing us at Europe when we're negotiating the Brexit deal to try and get the best possible deal for the United Kingdom. I don't think so. And then we've got Jeremy Hunt. Now, Jeremy Hunt was pictured yesterday sitting at the wheelhouse of a trawler, drinking a can of Iron Brew and eating a chip, and holding the microphone of the ship-to-shore radio to his ear. Another man who really couldn't find his arse with both hands, being touted as the next leader of the Conservative Party. Now, when you put clowns like this in front of television cameras and try to convince the population that these men are appropriate human beings to be leading a country, then you know the game's a bogey. You know that you have lost the fight. Brexit is a colossal joke. The United Kingdom is not just a laughing stock, it's a continuous joke. It's like a comedy programme that has run for 3 years on every television channel in every TV across the planet, where every other country gets to have a good old laugh at Great Britain and the way it carries on, and also the people that it puts up as its Prime Minister. Here in Scotland, things are a bit different. Here in Scotland, we're not really having to do very much to sell independence because the Tories are doing the job for us. By wheeling people like Boris Johnson out, and as I say, wheeling out the corpse of Gordon Brown every now and again, does nothing to endear us to the Union whatsoever. and then having threats made by people like, what's his name? Oh, Mr. Ross Thompson, that's the fella, right, Ross Thompson. The man who's known as Mr. Feely is handling Boris Johnson's campaign here in Scotland, as far as I understand it. What a man to put in charge of your campaigning in Scotland. A man who gets thrown out of a bar for filling up other men's bottoms is an ideal candidate, really, to support your candidacy to be the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. If it wasn't so serious, it would be funny. It's almost as if Boris Johnson is trying to lose this campaign. I wonder if anyone else has noticed this, that Boris Johnson appears more buffoon-like than normal, that he's saying even more outrageous and stupid things than he normally does, and having a massive row with his girlfriend where the police are called on nothing to help that. So it's a comedy show, but while all this is going on, we are sailing as usual full steam towards the Brexit iceberg, and it's all going to go belly up before we get to Halloween. In the meantime, we are hearing words that somehow or other the British government, or I should say the Tory government in London, is going to try to fund local councils directly, bypassing the Scottish Parliament completely, tearing up the Scotland Act completely and bypassing Holyrood, so that they can bribe local authorities with cash direct from the Treasury. Now, if they were going to sideline Holyrood, they could have closed it, they could have made it illegal, they could have abolished devolution, but they haven't even got the spine to do that. They are just simply going to try to bribe local authorities instead. So again, we're seeing, the desperation that's coming from the British side, that they're trying anything in their power to turn this around so that we won't vote for independence. Every day now, we're seeing some retired old gentleman who's a traditional Tory voter or a traditional Labour voter coming out on Twitter or on Facebook and saying, you know what, I voted no in 2014, but I changed my mind. And I think this is happening all over Scotland at the moment. It's not happening just amongst people my age and your age, but it's happening young and old, male and female, European and Scottish, doesn't matter who you are. People are waking up and thinking, we are living in the middle of a nightmare at the moment. We're so far down the rabbit hole, we've lost track of what reality is. And Scotland needs to get back to some kind of normality. And I think the only way to do that is for us to have our independence. And we've been saying this for the last 3 years. But it's actually now true. It is the only way to get back out of the rabbit hole, away from this through the looking glass world of right-wing fundamentalism and Americans running our health service and right-wing racists running the United Kingdom, throwing out Europeans, shutting out anyone with brown skin, closing the doors, and basically wrecking the entire country with this ridiculous nonsense, which has all come from Donald Trump's main supporter in the United States, the man who ran Trump's campaign, and the one who has funded Nigel Farage's Brexit campaign as well. Steve Bannon wants Europe destroyed. He wants the United Kingdom out of Europe so it's in the weakest possible state, so that the weakened United Kingdom becomes basically a banking centre, becomes nothing but a remote island where people can stuff their ill-gotten gains, and that's really the bottom line here. The United Kingdom is destined to become an offshore tax haven, and the only people who will benefit from this are those who are already very, very rich, because there is another world economic crash coming. This just hasn't happened yet. There are reports coming from all over the place. I read one yesterday by George Kerrivan, who was pointing out that there are millions of companies, particularly in America, who are dot-com type companies, who set up to run some kind of online business, and within weeks they're worth billions of dollars into them, and yet they're all hemorrhaging money. You have a look at companies like Tesla, which has never turned a proper profit yet, is burning up billions of dollars of investment money, and yet these investments that are going into these paper companies, which are really worth these billions, The stocks are soaring in value. Stock market is growing rapidly, but there isn't actually any real value in these companies. They are basically overpricing everything to make as much money as possible. Then there will be another colossal boom, just like the one in 2008, only far, far worse, because companies are just going to go bust, and all the money invested in them for your pensions will disappear. And when that disappears, then the world runs out of capital to run on. And the only people who have made money out of it are the very, very rich. And that is exactly what the United Kingdom is lining itself up for, is to benefit the very, very rich, including people like Boris Johnson himself, Nigel Farage. All of these guys who have massive amounts of money stuffed away already in tax havens all around the world, richer, everyone else is going to get poorer. So this is a time when we really don't want to be a part of the United Kingdom, because if we are a part of the United Kingdom, we are going to become part of a slave state which will send all of its taxes to London to support the nation state of London, which is what will be left of the United Kingdom, because there won't be anything left of England worth fighting over, because the rest of England will be a subsistence economy. As it is at the moment, it's going that way. The health service will be a thing of the past. Everybody will need insurance to afford any kind of healthcare, and if you can't afford insurance, you will simply die, because that's the American way, and that is what Jeremy Hunt wants to introduce, and that's what Nigel Farage wants to introduce into the UK. So at the moment, we are heading further and further down this rabbit hole, and the only way back out of it is for us to have the vote on independence before Halloween, because if we wait much longer than that until we actually see Brexit happening, supposedly, if it happens at all, then it's too late. Because at the point where Brexit is happening, I guarantee the Tories will already have option or somehow sidetracked it or derailed it or suspended it and introduced some kind of state of emergency, because we can see it all coming. We can see this coming from miles away. The objective of the Tory party is so absolutely transparent. They want to get rid of the manufacturing sector in England and go straight towards nothing but financial services. Everything else, but the City of London must survive. Scotland, basically, we can be there to provide a cash cow with our whisky revenues and our oil and all the other good stuff that Scotland has that make us the slave nation that we truly are. We are basically destroyed by a giant parasite attached to our southern border. And unless we get out from under, they will not only suck us dry, but they will spit us out. And the only independence we'll get is when our oil is run out and there's not a whiff of gas left, and every cent that they could squeeze out of us has been taken and put into these tax havens for people like Boris Johnson and all the wealthy chums. We also know this week that Harry and Meghan have got a new house. And it's not just one house, it's 5 terraced houses knocked through into one super gaff for this single couple with a single child. And that's 5 houses that could have housed 5 families being given to 2 people with 1 child. That's costing you and me £2.4 million to do the work, to knock through all the walls, to let them have 5 houses for their 1 child play in. Do you think that is a good use of your taxpayer money? Because I don't care whether you like the royals or not. Do you think that's a good use of your tax money? Because I definitely do not. I am not a royalist, I never have been. I don't see the point of them. Frankly, I could happily see Scotland become a socialist republic tomorrow and be perfectly happy with that. We need no royal family to make our country run. None whatsoever. They do nothing for Scotland at all, other than come up here for their holidays once in a blue moon, and are seen in Balmoral, where the Queen even complains about paying her council tax, believe it or not, because she is that tight that she won't even pay her council tax properly. Anyway, enough of the rant for today, but take it from me, we need to vote for independence before Halloween. If we don't do that, will sidestep and local authorities giving them cash to do exactly the kinds of things that the Scottish Government normally have cash for. And that means if they start doing that, then the Barnett formula will end, because the Barnett formula gives cash to the Scottish Government to give to Scottish local authorities. If they start giving money directly to Scottish local authorities, the Barnett formula will collapse, and the Scottish Parliament will run out of funds, and what do you know, it will become untenable and they'll have to shut it down. And if you think that's not their aim, then you're a fool, because they are looking at ways of disarming, depowering, declawing, and basically shutting down Holyrood any way they can at the moment. It's going to happen a lot faster than people think, and we won't get any warning of it. One day you'll wake up and Holyrood will have a big padlock on it, and what do you know, David Mundell will be the Viceroy of Scotland, and he will be ruling Scotland. That little naff that picks snacks out of his whiskers is going to be ruling Scotland. And if you don't want that to happen, then you really need to start kicking up a fuss to get this referendum done, because that's what it's needed. We need the referendum this summer, we need the date set, and we need to have it, and we need to stop worrying about what the British government will do. Around and waiting for Brexit. I mean, why do we have to wait until things are so bad that we get damaged before we act? Why? Why do we have to wait for Britain to decide when we can have a referendum? We don't need to wait. There's never been a reason for us to tie our independence to Brexit. Brexit will happen, or it won't happen, or it will happen one way, or it will happen another way, it will happen sooner, or it will happen later. Who the hell cares? It's going to be bloody awful no matter what happens. Even without Brexit, we're stuck with Boris Johnson and Donald Trump. So, and if that's what you want for your kids, then okay. Don't for this, but frankly, I think it's time we stopped pissing around and actually started hassling our MSPs to get this referendum going. Because I don't know about you, I'm with this. If we don't do it now, we have about 4 weeks really before the new king of the Tories is elected or crowned or anointed or whatever the hell they do to him. Involve the head of a pig for all I know. But anyway, it's going to be a coronation of sorts. Whatever numpty or fool they want to lead the country will be anointed. We have nothing to do with it. We have no choice in that anyway. Nobody does, unless you're a Tory. So why are we waiting? You know, in 4 weeks' time, Boris Johnson or Jeremy Hunt becomes the Prime Minister, picks his buddies to be the new cabinet, and what do you know, they'll pass some legislation that closes all the rights. And we'll be like, now it's too late. Let's not do that, okay? Let's not mess this up this time. I don't want this to be like, you know, the Scottish World Cup football team that snatches defeat from the jaws of victory. Let's get this done before the goalposts are moved and before the VAR is switched on, you know, before something is done to stop us, because they're going to do everything they can. We've already seen the old warhorse of Bruin wheeled out. Who's going to be next? What's going to be next? Frankly, I think we're all being lulled in a false sense of security that the Brexit drama is going to drag on for years.